Okay, guys. So we have around 44 students. Still, I think we will join because uh, considering the total number of students of the three sections, it's very less. But okay, let's begin. So time is 2 o'clock. So today, what we are going to discuss is something about the procedural language versus the object-oriented languages. So we will try to understand a little conceptual difference, not in complete detail, but a conceptual difference between the procedural language versus when we consider the object-oriented programming languages, and what are the things that needs to be changed when we basically move from a procedural language to object-oriented language. So please give me any one example of a procedural language, anyone?
Sir Pascal.
Okay, Pascal, and any language that you have learned recently, the C language,
C language, sir.
yes.
Yes, yes, language, sir.
Whereas C++,
JavaScript.
C++.
JavaScript, okay, C++. JavaScript is not a totally procedural language. Uh, it can got all concepts of objects as well. Okay, so it's a kind of a blend of both the worlds because it's more into a scripting kind of thing. So people write the code very much like a scripting language, I mean a procedural kind of code, but you have something of object orientation also available there. Anyways, a typical example, if I talk about a procedural language is C, and an object-oriented language is C++. So, if you remember your understanding of the C language, then if I ask you to write a particular program, uh, say uh, a program to say sort two given elements. Okay. If I give you a program to uh, rather, let's say not sort but compare compare two given elements. So probably you will start with a main method. With a main method, you will start thinking about a main method where the execution of the program begins. Then there could be logic that the two numbers that yeah, or the two elements that I want to compare could be different kinds of element. It could be a number, could be a number, uh, either uh, non-decimal or decimal, for example, but it is a number essentially. Second, it could be a character. Okay. Third, it could be a string. Okay. Fourth, we can extend a lot of ideas over here. Probably it's a complex number. If we extend the idea of number itself, so it's a complex number. Okay. So if you have to compare a number, whether it's a decimal number or a simple non-decimal number, in that case, you will just use to compare the two given number. You will use either less than or greater than simple to identify which number is lesser or which number is greater, right? If I ask you to compare two given numbers and give me the smallest of the two numbers, then probably you would use the lesser sign. Let's say a variable x is there that is stored 5, and a variable y is there that is stored 7. So you will put a condition uh, if x is less than y, Okay, then return X, else return Y, right? This is what you will do, right? But if I ask you to compare a character, so in terms of character, if I say that there are two characters values like A and say for example C. So of course, in the order of appearance, you will say that okay, I will suggest the comparison, the meaning of the comparison of the two characters as A is less than C because it appears before C, or you will compare the ASCII values of the two characters. Okay, getting my point, guys?
Yes, sir.
Okay. If I say it's a string, then probably just comparing the first character is not enough. So, for example, if I have a string, say, with my name, SHAS Shah, the first name of my name, the first word of my name, Shah, and there is another person called SYED, Sayyid. His name starts with Sayyid, okay? So, the first character is going to be the same. So, you will compare the first character. If the first character comes before the second before in order of the first character of the second word, then you will say okay, this particular word is smaller in the dictionary order than as compared to this word. But if both are same, then you will, after comparison of the first word, then you will start comparing the second word, say H and Y. So H comes before and Y comes later. So you will say Shah is smaller than Sayyid, for example. If you have to arrange in a order of a dictionary, right? So this kind of comparison would be done. So less than means a different here, right? For a character, a less than means uh, another thing. For a simple number, whether a decimal or non-decimal number, it could be a different thing, right? For a complex number, it could be entirely different mechanism that you follow. So this is just an example to tell you the idea that imagine that you have written three or four different functions to compare. One function is compare numbers. One function is compare complex number, right? Another function is compare character, pair. Another function is compare history, and so on. So if I keep on increasing the type of elements which need to be compared, then definitely you are going to writing each and every for each and every comparison, different types of comparison, a different module or a different function, right? A function, independent function that will just take two elements of the type which needs to be compared. So comparing numbers means you will probably take two integer types, okay, integer x comma integer y. If I say I want to even add a comparison for a floating point number, then I will add another method compare floating point number that will take float x comma float y and so on. For a complex number, the format will change with the imaginary and the complex imaginary and the different two components inside the complex number. Similarly, for a compare character, the two elements which we received as a parameter are two different characters, single characters, right? For a string, it's a complete string which needs to be arranged in a dictionary order. So in the main method, you will first put a condition. So from main method, you call another method check element type. So this element type is going to check whether you have you want to compare two simple numbers that is not decimal number, so you want to compare two decimal point numbers that is a floating point number, or you want to compare two characters, or you want to compare two strings, or you want to compare two complex numbers, either using if-else statement that you are already aware of, or the switch case statement. This is also you are already aware of in your C and C++ classes. If not, just just don't worry. Basically, you have done a kind of comparison using certain statements, right? So when this function returns one, for example, for a number, two, for example, for a floating point number, three for a complex number, four for a character, five for a string, so on. So then after the response from this particular method, you will basically call another method depending upon the response. If the response is 1, you will call compare two numbers. If the response is 2, you will call compare two floating point numbers. If the response is 3, you will probably call compare two complex numbers. 4, you will call compare character. 5, you will
एक्सक्यूज
probably
मी
call
सर.
compare string. Yeah.
सर कुछ बच्चे एंट्री चाह रहे हैं,
Yes.
उनको एंट्री दे दीजिए.
So that is why I say people should join on time, because once. I'm not able to give them entry. I don't know why. Anyways, guys, please try to join on time, because I'm not able to see screen every time while I'm teaching. So it's not a good idea that you join late, because it is going to disturb the whole class. So the idea is, you start from a main method, then you call another method, another routine, right? Which is basically check the type of number. Then depending upon what that particular routine returns you call another method which are going to actually compare the different types of number, specific routines which are written for that type of comparison for a particular kind of numbers or elements. Then maybe you will call another method after that, which is going to print the result on the screen, or write the result on the file system, or so on, right? So basically, in a procedural language, the idea is your whole concentration is, your whole focus is, you start with the main method, and then you keep on thinking about method A, method B, method C, and so on. Further, method B may call some other method, say X and Y, and so on. Ultimately, from each and every method, the control keeps on returning to the original caller of the method, and then the main method is something which is going to take the control to wind up the whole thing. Okay, so this is called as a focus on the behavior. Your focus is totally is on behavior, because a particular method, a function defines a behavior. Okay, so your focus is totally on behavior in a procedural language, right? यहाँ तक सही है?
जी सर.
Yes, sir.
ठीक है, कोई डाउट हो तो इंटरप्ट करके पूछ लीजिएगा. Now, when you turn your programming skills towards object-oriented programming language, you will have to stop thinking in terms of behavior. That is the first thing you have to do. Rather, you have to start thinking in terms of objects and the data that the object is going to hold. Okay, correct? For example, now let me take another example because that will make more sense here to explain an object-oriented programming language. For example, a typical example that I give to students is your student management system, for example, for a university. A student management system for the university. Now, you would start thinking about how to calculate the students' fee details, or how to generate the receipt for them, or any of the behavior kind of requirements. Rather, you will start thinking about the objects. What are the objects that will compose this management system? Okay, वो कौन सी चीजें हैं जो इस मैनेजमेंट सिस्टम को बनाएंगी, यानी उनके एलिमेंट्स क्या होंगे, एलिमेंट्स इन टर्म्स ऑफ ऑब्जेक्ट्स. जैसे फॉर एग्जांपल the first thing that will come into my mind is student itself, which will contain the student details. Okay, course. So course is another object, and student is going to register on a particular course. Then your fee receipts. Okay, then maybe your mark sheets. ठीक है. Fifth, attendance record. Okay, so these are the common terms, or the nouns rather, the nouns which are coming into our mind when we think about the student management system, right? Uh, maybe we will have uh, say teachers allotted, okay, teachers allotted for a semester, for example, and so on. So these are the nouns which are coming to my mind when we think about a student management system, right? Okay, so the first thing that I have identified is that in an abstract level, we think about all the nouns which are coming to my mind, and then probably some of the nouns may not make sense to me, or some of the nouns may be a duplicate to the existing nouns that we have thought. So we will keep on striking out or removing those nouns. Finally, we will get a high level or abstract list of nouns which make sense for the student management system, right? So this is how we start thinking. Now, once we are done with this activity, this list is with us. Okay, we will pick each element or each object from the list. Say, for example, we have picked up the student first. Okay, and we will try to think what are the data elements that this student will be described with. So, the data elements are the name of the student. Okay, then if he has applied, he has not got that admission, so his application number. Okay, once he has given that he has been given the admission, then his enrollment number, his age, uh, date of admission, for example, then maybe his uh, corresponding address is permanent address, and so on, right? So we will start thinking about the data next. The first thing that we have done is we have thought about the overall abstract entities that we call as objects, in the terms of nouns that come to my mind when we think about a complete system, okay, or even a part of the system. Then we start breaking down that particular individual entity into sub elements, uh, which are rather the data that will, uh, express that entity. That means these data, name of the student, application number, enrollment number, and so on, they are going to describe the student itself. Okay, every student will have different values for these elements. Say for example, if I pick up the course entity, say for example, then I will have a different set of data elements for this course element. Okay, say for example, course is name of the course, duration, list of subjects. It's a complete list, for example, list of subjects, semesters, uh, projects, okay, and so on. Level, whether it's an undergraduate level or a postgraduate level course, and so on. So we have started with the entities first. The first thing that we have done is to think of entities, think of high level entities that may translate to objects. Okay, we will come up with a list of entities. Then decide data elements for each entity. एक एक एंटिटी को उठाया और उनके डाटा एलिमेंट को हमने लिस्ट डाउन करना शुरू किया. Then we will start thinking about the behavior associated with each entity. With each entity. So we are done with the data. For example, the student and the course. So we will pick up the student and course individually, and we will describe the behavior of a student, for example. So what are the behaviors or the functions that we will write in the student, which will operate on these data elements? That is name of the student, his application number, enrollment number, age, date of admission, your corresponding address, and the permanent addresses. So these are the data elements, and the behaviors or the function which will apply on these data elements. So say for example, print student details is one such behavior, right? Okay. Say uh, return current semester. So in which semester this student is enrolled, okay? Or promote to next semester. A behavior in terms of functions or the methods, okay? So now we are thinking about the methods which will make these students their names rather, okay? We will even defer the actual code of these methods later on. So we are just thinking about it. So this is what we are designing. We are thinking in our mind. Okay. So we are just jotting down on pen and using a pen and a paper that what are the essential elements or the entities. Then we think about each entities, what are the data elements of those entities. Then we shifted our focus to the behavior. And at last, we will start thinking about the coordination between the entities. That means how a student object will be linked to the course object, right? How they are going to be linked. Okay. Probably a student object is going to call a method on the course object. A communication might happen. Okay. So the coordination will come into the last as a last factor. Whereas in the procedural language, you have started your focus right from the main method where the first coordination activity has to take place, right? Then you started shifting your thought over the behavior, that is what you are going to do for specific types of element which needs to be compared. Okay. Then you start thinking about probably the local variables and or the global variables. So the data comes at the last. Okay. So it's called a top down approach. It's a top down approach. The procedural language follows a top down approach, whereas your object oriented programming language is something which follows bottom up approach. Okay. यहाँ तक क्लियर है guys?
Yes,
Yes or
sir.
no?
जी सर, जी सर.
ठीक है. So this way of programming essentially changes your inclination or the way of thinking itself. कि आपको किस तरह से सोचना है चीज के बारे में. ठीक है. पहले आप मेथड पे ज्यादा फोकस रहते थे, अब आप किस पे फोकस रहेंगे, आप एंटिटीज पे फोकस रहेंगे. एंटिटीज, then further you will focus towards the data of the entities. Then you will come towards the behavior, and then you will think about the coordination at the last. You won't worry about the coordination till everything is you know in place. Okay. So these are the steps that you will follow during your course of programming. Uh, Once you are good with the object, any of the object oriented programming language, everything will come as in one go to your mind. You won't have to worry about all those steps. But initially, while you are learning or you are doing any small project, then you better follow these steps so that you practice or you incline yourself towards the object oriented programming way of programming rather. Okay. Now, when I talked about the entities, I call them as entities or objects. Okay? Objects. They are real world, you know, either the conceptual or the physical existence. They have the real world physical or conceptual existence. For example, if I say about the furnitures of that you might be having in your room, so I will say table. Table has a physical existence. Okay. Chair. Chair has a physical existence. Okay. There could be something which could be thought of as a record, your attendance record. Okay. That might have just a conceptual your existence probably. Okay. If it's not in a particular visible or touchable format. Okay. So whatever, whether it's a physical existing thing or a kind of a logical existing thing, it's a thing. Basically, it's a thing. We are talking about a thing, and that thing is called as an object. Okay. And the description of this thing, which I am calling as an entity or object, is nothing but class. So class is a description. ठीक है. क्लास क्या करता है, डिस्क्राइब करता है किसी चीज को. Just for example, if I say I've got a table, okay. So in your home there could be, say for example, there are three tables. There are three tables, right? There are three tables, okay. One table is something which has got, uh, say, a length of 10 feet and a breadth of 4 feet. It's a dining table, okay. Another table could be a stool, could be just a stool, which has three three feet of, length and width, okay. Your study table, it could have, say 5 feet length and 3 feet width. Essentially, all these tables may have different dimensions, okay. They may have different dimensions and they occupy separate spaces. So your dining table is sitting in your dining area. Your stool might be somewhere at the corner of your, probably your living room, and your study table might be inside your study room, right? They occupy certain space, and they have three separate physical existence. But if I talk about their description, so I will just say I want to describe any table, any of these tables. I will say the table has got its base, the upper base, its base, length, base, width, number of legs, for example, okay, number of legs. Then I will probably say that material it is built with, wood or maybe some steel or whatever, okay? Material, and so on. Okay, so this is the description. This is the description in terms of the data, as we have seen in terms of a student entity. We have seen in the context of the course entity and so on. So table is, this is a table. So there are three tables, but these three tables, they occupy separate space. They have separate dimensions. Okay, but the description is same. So essentially, the description is same. So your class, which is typically called as a blueprint class, a blueprint, a blueprint. Like for example, if you go to um, uh, factory where bricks are made, so they have molding, molding structure made of iron, in which they put the clay and then the shape is prepared for each and individual brick. So the molding, that molding, structure made of iron might be just one molding structure, for example, and you can cast, say, 1,000 bricks from it. But these 1,000 bricks will, occupy separate spaces. Whereas that molding structure, that's just a kind of, description, that what is going to be the length of the brick, what is going to be the width of the brick, and what is going to be the depth of the brick. Or probably some kind of a stamp on the brick and so on, right? So a class is nothing but a blueprint, whereas objects are the existing elements which occupy some space, some physical space. Okay, but when we talk in terms of a programming language, so for example, if we take the example of something called as a student class. So in when it is translated to a program, there could be a number of students. Say Amit is one student, Ali is another student, say Zishan is another student. So we have got three students. Okay, so Amit will hold some space in the memory to store its values, its name, its age, its the course he has been admitted to, the date on which he has got the admission, his correspondence address, his permanent address, and so on. Similarly, Ali will have a separate physical space in the memory. Okay, for storing its values of its elements, its data elements, and Zishan will have its own, space that it will acquire in the memory for storing its details, right? And the memory that we call typically, which store these objects, the object with the name Amit, the object with the name Ali, and the object with the name Zishan, they contain many values within themselves and distinct values, maybe. So these objects, they occupy space, and they occupy space in something called as a heap. Heap, a memory chunk which has been allocated. Okay, so they occupy space in heap. Guys, clear till now? Let me know.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
and when we define a blueprint or the structure, we will say class. Okay, say table, and we will start with the curly braces. We are writing the code to define the structure. Okay, we will say what are the elements that we have chosen: base length, base width, number of legs, material. For example, 4 elements. Okay, so integer, base, length. Okay, I am following the convention also. Base length could be one attribute. Integer, base, width could be another attribute. Okay, so these are integers because we are talking in feet and we want to keep it simple. So 5 feet or 2 feet, whatever. Then we have got number of legs, number of material. So let's say number of legs is also integer element, integer number of legs. Okay. Then type of material. So I will choose string material type and so on. So these are the 4 data elements that we have chosen to describe the table object. ठीक? And the table object will translate to something which are going to physically occupy the space, right? Like the dining table or your stool or your study table, right? Similarly, if there is a class called as student, it may have many objects. That means each individual or students of your class may have a different object. Okay, Amit, Ali, Zishan, they are different objects, and they will occupy space in the heap for each and every element which are defined for them. Data elements, okay, those data elements, and each data element for each of the variables which I have defined here, like here, okay, they will have different values, right? Now let's try to do it programmatically and try to create a class, and then we will try to create a number of objects of that class. Okay. Let me create a new project, say student management system.
सर एसआरसी में प्रोजेक्ट सेलेक्ट करेंगे.
नहीं, ये मैंने प्रोजेक्ट बना रहा है, मैं नया प्रोजेक्ट ही बना रहा हूँ, क्योंकि अभी स्टूडेंट हम शुरुआत कर रहे हैं. वी आर स्टार्टिंग विद जस्ट अ सिंगल एंटिटी स्टूडेंट, देन वी विल कीप ऑन एडिंग मोर एंटिटीज, try to understand the relationship between those entities, right? So a kind of a small, very small, exercise that looks like a small application itself. Okay. So I am. This is the package explorer. I have already demonstrated. Just let me revise it again. I will right click on it. Okay. Go to new and a new project, new Java project. Okay. New Java project, and then I will give the name of the project, student management uh, system, Okay, this is the name that I have given, and then I'll just say finish. That's it. See, another a project has appeared. That means in my workspace I will have two different folders: demo BCA section A and B, and student management system as separate folders. Okay, if I go to my workspace and look over there, I've told you how to get into the workspace and figure out the details of your files and your projects stored over there. So here you will see the SRC folder. Now I will create a package first because uh, I want to keep everything organized. So under the directory structure, so I will create first package. Say for example, uh, uh, admissions. Okay, admissions. One package is admissions. So as of now, I have started thinking about those who are going to apply, are going to apply in our university. Okay, then I might have another package, another folder which have the name. Say for example, uh, students. Enrolled students. Okay, so anything related to enrolled students, I will keep it here. So I'm trying to organize things, so I'm creating a number of folders. So just to give you an essence or the idea, I'm creating so many number of packages. Otherwise, I do not require to create so many packages. Then I might create another package, alumni. So whole alumni management system, the interaction with the current students and all those things, whatever the project that I will build to interact and integrate the existing students, the alumni and other stuff, that those components are going to get into this particular folder, alumni folder. Okay. Then probably I will talk about academics as one folder where I will keep different courses. Sorry. Mm, Instead of package, I have created the class. So package academics. So all the courses which we are offering, they will get into academics and anything related to it. So this is how we are going to start thinking about an application. Just like you start building a house, so you will think about what is the going to be the size of my living room, where I will build the toilets, and where I am going to build your kitchen and so on, other rooms. So you are going to plan things. So I'm giving a kind of a plan. We are thinking in terms of the plan. Okay. So we will start with just admissions. Okay. So now the first thing that happens in admission is submission of application form where a student fills his detail. So application form could itself be an entity, right? As of now, I am talking about applicant, applicant, applicant as an object or entity. Okay, so applicant, he could be applying into various courses, right? So this applicant, now you see, once I have, what I have done is I have clicked on the right click on the admissions package. I have gone to the new, then class. I've chosen the class this time, and I've given the name of the class as applicant. Okay, and then I have said finished, and a class applicant has been generated. So it has already put the package statement as the first statement of the class, that this applicant class is within the admissions package. Okay. Let me just, for the revision purpose, let me just go to the workspace and show you. Where is my workspace? Where should I look for it? Anyone, please?
Yes, sir.
Where should I look for my workspace? Users, right? My username, then Eclipse, Eclipse workspace, right? So this is the name of my workspace, right? You can see workspace. The name is also given here, BCA section A and B, right? So this is my workspace for your batch. So you can see there are two projects: demo BCA section A and B and instrument management system. Two folders are there. In instrument management system, uh, I will see bin and SRC, two folders. In SRC, I will see academics, admissions, alumni, and enrolled students. All the four packages as separate folders. Academics is empty because I have not created any class inside it. So will be alumni and enrolled student. But the admissions has got one class, which is applicant.java. So applicant.java has been created over here. If I go to the SRC folder, at the same location, there is a bin folder. The bin folder will also contain the same package structures. If I go to the admissions, I will see applicant.class, the compiled byte code, right? So here I will get my class files, and the SRC folder I will get my .java file. ठीक है? Clear है यहाँ तक?
Yes, sir.
ठीक है. Now I've thought about entity applicant, for example, which is going to the package admissions. Now applicant, when I talk about the applicant, what could be the details of the applicant? The first thing could be a string name of sorry applicant. Okay, name of applicant, right? That is a string because I have to store the whole name. Then int age of applicant. See, even the element name or the variable name that I am taking, they are also clearly reflecting what this variable is meant for, and they are following the camel case, right? Yeah, here I have done a mistake. I should not say applicant as a small letter, right? I should have what I should have done. Applicant A should be in caps because it's the name of a class. Now, if I change this A here, I will also have to change A here in the Java file, right? Because both the name should match, right? So the way I have told you yesterday in one of the lectures is instead of doing it manually at every places, just right click on it, go to refactor option and rename from here. Do not just rename by clicking on it directly. And if you say applicant, a capital over here, and if you press enter key, you see here the name of the Java file is also changed automatically. Correct?
Yes, sir.
And I have told you that if this class has been referred and at 1,000 places and 1,000 objects have been created, so all those places, if whatever the changes they are required, they will be done automatically in that case also. So it's a kind of tool that will give you a quick, change mechanism without worrying about tracking down all the places where the changes are applicable. Okay. Now we have defined the applicant, we have defined the age of the applicant. Then we will talk about the course. He is going to apply. So string course applied, right? The course applied. Then we will talk about. Um, tell me some of the details of the applicant. What could be the other details? It should come from you guys.
So gender.
Yeah, gender.
The contact number.
Okay, okay. So
Sir, email ID.
sure, Boolean gender. I don't want to waste my space, right? So I will use Boolean gender. Not Boolean, it's bool. Okay. Boolean. Spelling करो सीखी ठीक है Boolean gender. Okay. If you do any mistake in the primitive data type, you will see the color is uh, primitive data type have a different color than the user defined data type. Okay. So you will know that you have done a mistake. Okay. Typing mistake. So ID is going to help you in that way also. Gender, and then say your phone number and your mail ID and your address. So initially I'm taking as separate elements. So let's say integer. I'm trying to keep the primitive data type also as simple as possible initially. Later on, we will look about more, a little uh, different data types depending upon the requirements, what best suits. So phone number, then uh, a string, email, email ID, then a string, communication, address, then permanent address. Okay. So that's it. These are the okay. Let me add another say internal category. If he is a internal student, probably he will get some benefits. Okay, so category is another thing. So let me say either I can use integer value for a category 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 that will have a specific meaning, or I can say more verbose thing will be to write a string. Okay, and there are better options as well that we are not going to discuss as of now. So a string, let's say students category. Okay, that's it. Now we have thought about thought about the data elements of the applicant. Okay, once we have thought about the data elements of the applicant, we will start thinking about the behavior. Okay, so let's say I want to print the details of all the applicants. Okay, that is the behavior I want to write. So I could write a method like uh, print students details, and because this method is meant for the printing on the console, so I say that this particular method is something which is not going to return anything. So this is a void method. Okay. Now I will say system.out.println under double quotation name of the student is okay, and then I want to add the actual name or the value of the name, okay, of the student to this particular string name of the student is. So I will just say plus. So plus is a concatenation operation. Okay. Normally, if you add two numbers, 2 plus 5, you will get 7. But if you add two string, it becomes concatenation. That means you are appending the second string after the first string. So I am going to concatenate the name of applicant variable. If I type here the name of the applicant, the actual value of it will be replaced. So if it's name of the applicant contains the value as Amit, so the whole thing that will be or the whole line that will be printed is name of the student is Amit. Okay. Similarly, I can write as many lines as I like for different details. For example, let me say age of the student. Age of the student is now here. I will place Control C, Control V, age of the applicant, and so on, and so on. In fact, there is an easy way out. I will tell you it later. But you will have to keep writing like this for each and every data element. Okay? So first behavior that we have thought about is print is detail. Okay? But what about giving some values to these data elements. We have not thought about how we are going to give the values to these data elements. Okay. So what we can do is we can write methods like public void set name of applicant, set name of applicant, and here this is the body of the method, and here I will take a string name of applicant. Okay, and here I will say this dot name of applicant is equal to name of applicant. Now try to understand this method very carefully. If I click on this variable, which is the parameter of the set name of applicant method, see, it has highlighted the right side of the equal to, the name of the applicant. That means whatever is being passed as an argument to the this particular parameter, that will come to the right side. And if I double click on this name of the applicant, you see it's highlighting the variable of the class, not this method local variable. Parameters are always treated as a method local variable that are limited, their scope is limited, their visibility is limited to this body of the method only. But when we click on this particular variable, then you can see the scope. It's showing it's not this particular variable, but rather this variable. Although the names are same, both the names are same, right? So just to distinguish this, I have put the this keyword. If I would have not put this keyword, then what will happen? It won't show me a compilation error, okay? But it's going to anyways show me a message, a hint that the assignment to variable name of applicant has no effect. The assignment to the variable name of applicant has no effect. That means it's assuming you are assigning the value of the name of applicant to the same local variable name of applicant. Okay? So by default, the variable which is closest to the place where you are calling, that will be picked. Just for example, if you are sitting in the class and if I say one of the person who is sitting in front of me that please give me a chair, okay? So if he has got two chairs, one is something which is lying besides him, very close to him, and one chair which is lying at the back of the class. So definitely the tendency is to pick up the chair which is closest to this person. So he will pick up the chair which is near to him, the one next to him, instead of going to the back of the class. Similarly, if you are using the name of a variable, by default, the variable which will be picked will be the one which is nearest, and the nearest is inside the method local variable. Okay, here also and here also, right? At both the places you can see the same variables are being highlighted. So to distinguish this, I have to say this. This has a further story that we will discuss in later classes. But now the things are distinguished clearly. If I click on just name of the applicant, it will take me to the method local variable. That means it is going to highlight the method local name of the applicant variable. Okay. If I click on this dot name of the applicant, that name of the applicant part of this dot name of the applicant, then it is going to highlight me the variable which is defined as a state variable or a variable of the class. Okay. Okay. Which is at the scope of at the class scope. I mean the scope is visibility is at the class level. ठीक है guys समझ में आ गया इतनी बात
जी सर
okay now so this method essentially takes a value, say for example the value of the name of applicant parameter comes as Amit, so that Amit will be assigned from here to this particular variable, and this variable is nothing but the state variable. Okay, correct?
जी सर
Okay, so I'm just stopping here, not the class. I'm just stopping here the addition of the method. There is much to it. We will try to understand in the later classes. But as of now, just try to understand. I have written part of the print initial details with just two elements to be printed, name and age, and then I have given one method which is the set name of the applicant, uh, which is going to assign some value to this variable. Initially, this variable will not have any value. Okay, for the object. Okay. Now, in the admissions package itself, now I'm going to create another class start start program. For example, I want to start my program, so I've given the name as start program. Not a good name, but just to make sense that what we are going to do. Okay, and this method essentially contains the main method. As you can notice, this applicant class doesn't contain the main method, but this start program.java, for it I have chosen the main method to exist. Right? The main method is generated. How to generate? We have discussed in the previous classes. Now here what I will do is I will create the object of the description. The description is in the class, the applicant class. Okay. So I will create the object of the applicant class. So I will say applicant Amit with the name Amit is equal to new. A new object should be created which should physically occupy the space for all the variables or the data elements that we have defined in the applicant class. New applicant, or let me use the shortcut applicant. Okay, new applicant. One object is Amit. Now again, I'm not satisfied with just one student. I want more students in my class. I will say Ali. Ali. See, I am following the naming convention. Okay. So new applicant again. Okay. Now the third applicant that I have choose is say applicant Zishan. Zishan is equal to new applicant. Okay. Okay. So actually I am creating three different objects. Once this line is executed, Amit object is created. After that, this line is executed, the Ali object is created. After Zishan is executed, the Zishan object is created. Now, what I will do is I will use the name of these objects, Amit, Ali, and Zishan, to assess any variable or method. So let me say Amit dot now set name of applicant, and here I will pass his full name, Amit Singh, for example. Okay. Now I will use Ali reference variable, the variable which the name that I have given to the second object. Okay, and I will say Ali dot set name of applicant Syed Ali, for example. Okay, and then I will use the Zishan object, the reference variable of the Zishan. We call it as a reference variable. The name that we have given to the variable, we call it as a reference variable because it is referring to an object which is occupying some space in the memory. So we call it call this variable as a reference variable, and we will say Zishan dot set.
सर जिशान की स्पेलिंग गलत है
स्पेलिंग मिस्टेक है, ठीक है. Zishan dot set. देखिए अपने आप आ जाता है वो आपकी हेल्प के लिए सारे मेथड. आपको बस चूज करना है. अगर वो नहीं आ रहा है तो इसका मतलब आपने कहीं स्पेलिंग मिस्टेक करी है. Zishan Hussain, फॉर एग्जाम्पल. ठीक है, ये हमने इनको नाम दे दिया. So we have called three same methods on different objects for setting their names. ठीक है, the name variable. So the name variable of the applicant, that is name of the applicant, in the first object will be set as Amit Singh. In the second object it will be set as Sayyid Ali. In the third object it will be set as Zishan Hussain. ठीक है, तो ये ऐसा हो गया जैसे कि आपने 3 ऑब्जेक्ट बनाए. क्लास क्या है? क्लास है एप्लीकेंट, जो आपने क्लास लिखा है. इसके अंदर डिस्क्रिप्शन आपने दिए डाटा के, मेथड्स दिए हैं, डाटा एलिमेंट्स which are described by variables, and then behavior which are described by methods. ठीक है, these are described by variables and these are described by methods or functions, what you call it. ठीक है, so you have data elements, you have print applicant detail, set applicant name as the behaviors, the 2 behaviors that we have described, and then you have created in the heap, in the memory, this is the heap where space will be allocated to a specific object. You have created an object Amit with the name Amit with the reference variable Amit, then Ali, and then Zishan. Now these variables will have their variables values, like name of the applicant will have different value for Amit, age may have different element for the Amit, his correspondent address and the permanent address will have different values. For similarly for Ali, they have different values. For Dishan, these elements will have different values. Okay. The behavior doesn't come into picture as of now in the heap because it's a static piece. It's a thing which is static. It will come into picture when we actually execute a particular method. Then only that particular method will become, and the instructions are for the particular method do not get into the heap, rather they get into something called as a stack. ठीक है, स्टैक और एग्जीक्यूशन स्टैक. ठीक है, तो वो इंस्ट्रक्शन जो होते हैं जैसे सेट कर रहे हैं दिस डॉट applicant name of applicant is equal to applicant name. That is the first statement that I will given to the method set applicant name, right? So that particular statement will come into the stack and so on. A method local variable will also come into this stack. Okay, if there are any. Okay. So now let me show you how the values get into these objects and how these objects are created. So I am going to use the debug feature for this purpose. Debug is, of course, debug is a functionality which I have told you in the previous classes that it is used to figure out if you have got any error or mistakes in your application. But you can effectively use debug techniques to figure out the flow of your program also, to understand your program and to see what's getting inside each and every variable of individual objects or the entities. So that is also a very good thing to study a particular code. To understand, to get a better understanding of the code itself. So what I will do is I will just, you see this vertical blue bar, right? Correct, guys?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I will go to the first line of this main method, this line number 7, and in this vertical blue bar I will right click and I will select toggle breakpoint option. Okay, toggle breakpoint. Now this is a breakpoint, as the name indicates, a breakpoint. So when I will run this application in the debug mode, the control will come and stop over this line, and until unless I press certain key, the control will not move. So this way I will be in a position to execute statement by statement, line by line, each statement of this particular method, to see what happens with the state variables of the different objects, Amit, Ali, and Zishan. Okay, have a look and you will understand what I want to say.
सर
चलो भाई, आज के लिए इतना ही।
सबर करो, ठीक है, और वेट किया है। दो मिनट वेट कर लो सर, मैं सर से कॉल करके बात करके आता हूँ। लेफ्ट कर जाओ सारे, नेक्स्ट क्लास में सर पढ़ाएंगे आगे का।
हाँ, मैं तो बोला ही था भाई।
लड़ लो यहीं पे।